and thank you for joining us on The Spin Room. I'm your host, Ami Kaufman. Today we are joined by former Israeli parliament member Moshe Feiglin and current leader of a new right-wing party that he hopes will bring him back to the legislature called Zehut, which in Hebrew means identity. Thank you for joining us, sir. In studio to partake in the discussion this week are former Israeli ambassador to France, Daniel Sheck, and pundit and screenwriter Gadi Taub. Good to see you again, guys.
Good evening.
Our three topics of discussion today with Mr. Feiglin are: Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is today being investigated once again by police for corruption. Is the noose tightening? We'll then discuss Mr. Feiglin's plan for solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and finish off the discussion on democracy and liberalism in the Jewish state. Okay, our first topic is the political situation here in Israel, with the Prime Minister again being investigated by police. Sir, thanks again for coming on the show. You used to be part of the Likud, the party of the Prime Minister. Do you believe that Mr. Netanyahu is a corrupt person?
No, I don't think he's a corrupt person. Definitely not as Olmert or others that we knew before. However, I do believe that somehow he creates corruption around him. Now, if these suspicious against him will happen to be true, that's a
if there's an indictment, for example, should he step down?
I think he should, yeah. And I think either he will do it, or we'll go to an early election that we can see very soon.
Gadi, what are your feelings on this? Is the noose tightening around the Prime Minister? Is it?
It seems so, and I dearly hope he's completely innocent. I'm not a fan of his, and I haven't voted for him.
Of Mr. Feiglin, you mean, or Netanyahu?
Both of them.
Yeah, but we're in the same party.
You're not a fan of Feiglin?
I'm sorry to say. Yeah. But it's a sad thing for Israeli democracy that our prime ministers are changed not by votes, but by indictments.
Right.
And this is not a healthy thing for the political system.
Daniel?
I just wonder how Mr. Feiglin knows that he's not corrupt. Is this an intuition? Is this?
No, just from knowing.
I don't know the answer, but there are serious police investigations about him, and I think we should have the courtesy of letting the courts and the police decide if he's corrupt or not. I think the jury's out. That's, excuse the pun. There's no jury in the Israeli court system, but the jury's out, and he might very well be at least as corrupt as Mr. Olmert, maybe much more.
And if this happens to be true and he goes, I will then support the French law that forbids investigating prime ministers, because every prime minister in Israel has been constantly under investigation the whole time.
Suddenly people are in love with the French. They know nothing about the French political system. They don't know that there is no way that you can apply the same rules here.
It's a different system.
You know what I mean when I say the French law.
I know what you mean.
There should be a law that forbids investigating the Prime Minister as long as he is in office, because he has to tend to his office.
There should be a law that Prime Ministers should not be corrupt.
That's
more important.
There is such a law.
Wait. Mr. Feiglin brought up the option maybe of early elections, maybe if something happens. I want to ask you about the new Likudniks, the people who are trying to change the Likud from Bifnim, maybe make it a bit more moderate. You did something similar in the past, but I guess from the right side of the party. And you wrote recently, you were interviewed recently, you said the new Likudniks are acting correctly due to the cynical situation in which democracy does not truly exist in Israel. What did you mean by that democracy does not exist in Israel, and why aren't you doing the same now in the Likud anyway?
The whole Israeli system do not represent ideas anymore, but only people. Can you tell me what's the difference between the two-state solution of Netanyahu and the two-state solution of Bougie Herzog or Avi Gabay, or you name it in the left, including yours?
I can tell you easily. One is supportive of settlements and annexation in the long run, and one is not. The two-state solution. If you support the two-state solution, but you support settlements, you don't support the two-state solution.
You can read the minds, I guess.
No.
Of the.
Okay, I can read
the lips.
I'm telling you, Gadi.
We have to go.
There's no understanding like that. Both sides have no idea what they talk about.
Mr. Feiglin, we have to go for a break. When we come back, more with former parliament member Moshe Feiglin. Stick around. We are back on the spin room with former Parliament member Moshe Feiglin, and you were rudely interrupted when you were trying to explain to me why there is not a democracy in Israel.
Hey, we're in Israel.
I know you're still.
Okay,
Okay, let's do it quickly.
However, there's no politics of ideas anymore in Israel. Just people fighting of their own, existence. Yeah. And in a situation like that, I can understand why Israelis who are trying to influence towards their direction, trying to get into sneak in the back, from the back door into the.
And why aren't you doing it, by the way, again, through the Likud?
You already did.
Because
he did it, but why aren't you doing it again?
Because definitely we do represent ideas. No one in Israeli politics represent ideas like
so you don't fit with the Likud anymore.
You're going to make it sound like you're lamenting the end of democracy. You're promoting the end of democracy by a vision of Zionism that is undemocratic.
No, but what's undemocratic with my vision? It's exactly the opposite. What are you talking about?
First of all, the right of all peoples to self-determination. I think you are denying that there are two peoples, not just the two-state solution. Am I right?
Okay. Who are the two people, if I can ask?
The Palestinians and the Jews.
Can you tell me what's the history of those people? The Palestinians?
It's called self-determination. If they call themselves a people,
so
you know what?
It's very interesting.
There is no leaders.
You don't need a vote
from no Ecuadorians, there is no Brazilian people.
From you, I expect honesty.
Yeah,
so far it was fine.
I think I have been honest, yes.
But when their own leaders, like Azmi Bishara and others, openly saying there is no Palestinian nation, we don't have to keep on that lie.
There is in a critical mass of people. You know that this is what people said about Jews. What was the struggle of Zionism? Zionism said we are a people, and other people say you are not a people.
If you want to solve a problem, you have to be honest. You have to say the truth.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic, which is your peace plan. This is something that you said to Israel Hayom, Israel's most widely circulated newspaper. We're going to bring it up. You said, I'm calling for the end of the occupation, which I think probably a lot of people found interesting choice of words from you. I'm calling for the end of the occupation because our aim is to place Israeli sovereignty over all the land, including Gaza, Judea, and Samaria. We're saying total Jewish sovereignty over the land.
Right. No, does this mean anymore? It's annexation.
Does this mean millions of Palestinians, maybe even according to some figures, maybe even half of the population between the river and the sea will be second-class citizens?
These are not the numbers. May I remind you?
The question: are they going to be citizens or not? Are they going to have full rights or not?
If you won't interrupt and you listen. You'll get I promise you'll get a full answer.
Okay, go ahead. Go for it.
If you'll just try not to interrupt. And I'm not talking about Gaza right now because from Gaza we left Gaza as you remember and destroyed all the Jewish villages over there.
But you want to conquer it?
And so we're talking about Judea and Samaria. In Judea and Samaria, my dear friends, there's 1.75 million Arabs.
That is
not
Palestinians. That is not the number used in the Knesset
These are the true.
These are not the numbers used by most
these are the true.
Never mind. Let's say there are just 1.75.
Thank you.
It's bad enough.
Which means less than 300,000 families. Most of them, and according to the existing demographic direction, the real existing demographic direction, there are going to be a majority of 80%. I'll answer your question.
Are they going to be citizens or not?
80% majority, Jewish majority in less than 15 years between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean.
Nobody's using those. Where do you get these numbers from?
According to you.
Just now to get the answer.
No, it's not throwing numbers. These are the true numbers. Let me answer.
To compliment him. I have compliments for you. It's worthwhile.
Can we get a yes or no?
Your numbers, the demographic numbers that you usually use, are total lie. Okay? Now.
Sure.
What is the Zehut plan? Those who wish to leave, according to their own surveys, are over 60%. And
they want to leave?
Yes.
Did you ask?
No, they're asking by themselves.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry. The facts. And I'll tell you more than that.
Why don't they leave? Why don't they leave?
Suddenly reality.
Who stops them?
I'm sorry, but
why don't they leave?
But numbers and reality not what
answer my question. Why don't they leave? Who stops them?
Mr. Feiglin,
Who stops
I'll answer your
them?
question.
Okay,
I'll answer your question.
and then I want to get a question in here.
They don't leave because they cannot sell the property. They'll be killed.
They can sell them to you. Oh, come on. They will be killed. They'll be
According to their own law,
they'll be gone.
if they sell their apartment to a Jew, they're being indicted. Death indicted.
Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Feiglin,
So the reality you don't care about reality.
If they will be equal citizens. And you have conditions.
I'm answering the question. Let me answer.
But we're talking. You have conditions about loyalty. Loyalty, right?
Let me answer, please.
You want Palestinian Zionists?
I know,
if there will be Palestinian Zionists,
I know the truth is hard for you, but please listen. Please listen.
You didn't invent the truth, you know?
I'm not inventing the truth.
Just because you're saying it's the truth doesn't make it the truth.
You used to do it for 30 years.
Who's you?
You.
Who's you?
Okay,
I did.
I
was working for you. I worked for the Israeli government.
You never worked for me. You worked for yourself. Okay. However, you never worked for me. You never represented me. Okay. Now, let me answer the question.
This belongs in Harry Potter, not in politics. Who is going to vote for your fantasy, Mr. Feiglin? Who is going to vote for your invented numbers?
You'll definitely see. Those who wish to leave, and over 30,000 of them leaving every year, by the way,
You touched on the leaving. What about
can
the
leave.
loyalty? The rights.
Those who want to stay as a permanent residence can stay, and those who want to become an Israeli citizens can do that too. Mr. Taub. How? Just the way it's done in Japan, just the way it's done in Switzerland, not from today to tomorrow, although after all...
The comparison is clear. The situation is just like in Switzerland. It's difficult to find
the bottom line.
This is not a new thing. This is Hanan's Porat plan since 1973.
The bottom line is
fantasy from which there are no foot soldiers.
We have to say that I prefer Mr. Feiglin to Mr. Netanyahu because he's being honest and clear on the table. And he's right that he left Likud and that he's doing his own thing.
Some of these people who you say, if they, Gadi, please, if they show loyalty, they can stay here and be full right citizens, right?
Exactly.
If one of those people, can one of those people be prime minister? Can he be chief of staff?
I guess not.
Why not?
I guess not.
They show loyalty.
Israel is a Jewish state. And that, I assume, leads us to your next question about Judaism and democracy.
Well, it's a different topic, but I think it leads to racism, actually. If he cannot be... if he cannot be...
One needs to point out, though, that this is not a Zionist vision. The Zionist vision is not accidentally democratic. It's deeply democratic because Zionism was about the right of self-determination. This is a messianic fantasy which should be labeled post-Zionist. It leans on numbers that don't exist.
Notice that, again, I was asked a question and you're trying to answer instead of me and interrupting
I'm sorry,
me.
you're right. I apologize.
Okay. And by the way, also in the United States of America, you can be an American citizen and not be the president, right? If you were not born in America, for example, you cannot be president.
But they were born here. They were born here. The Arabs that you want to be loyal are born...
It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that...
It doesn't matter. It matters there, but it doesn't matter.
What I was talking about is the principle.
So you make a comparison and then you say it doesn't matter.
I was talking about a principle. I'm sorry.
Can they serve in the army? Can they serve in the army? Just regular soldiers?
Yes, you can serve in...
So they can go up the ranks and be chief of staff.
Well, there are American fighters who are fighting in Afghanistan and in other places in the world and do not vote.
We have to go for a break. I'll let you continue after we come back for a commercial break. We have to go back. More with former Knesset member Moshe Feiglin, and we'll hear some more about Judaism and liberal democracy in Israel. Stick around. We are back on the spin room with former parliament member Moshe Feiglin, who during the break told me that he has a scoop. I'm waiting to hear what it is.
Yeah, a very interesting interview with the late singer, famous singer Leonard Cohen, was published yesterday in America, and he was asked about Jewish identity and about Israel. And during that interview, he was asked, is there any politician in Israel that he identified with? And he said, Moshe Feiglin. And he said the reason. He said the only plan of separating between Jews and Arabs in Israel, humane plan, he said that is humane and can be done, is the Feiglin plan.
When was this interview?
Yesterday.
So you have one voter, Moshe, but he's dead.
So the message made its way all the way to learn out core in America, and here
it's a great segue. It's a great segue.
Here you cannot even
How is it separation?
It's a great segue to my next question.
Except separation.
It's a great segue to my next question because according to one of your things on your platform, you want to let Jews anywhere in the world vote in the elections here in Israel, meaning Leonard Cohen, even though he's not an Israeli citizen, could vote for.
Also, dead Jews. Dead Jews can vote too.
I have to.
I did not understand the joke.
Okay, okay.
I'll explain it later. So
Okay.
That Leonard Cohen is dead. Okay. But it's an odd program. It's an odd.
Look, as I said, Israel is a Jewish state. Israel is running away from its Jewish identity from day one. And just as if you're an American citizen who live in Israel, if you're an Israeli with an American citizen, you can go to the embassy and vote.
They're not Israeli citizens.
But they don't live here. They're not citizens.
No, they're not citizens.
I know.
They're not
citizens. They don't live here.
Well, of course.
What matters is they don't want this. They didn't ask for the Israeli citizenship.
I'm saying if an American citizen or an Australian citizen can vote when he's here, I don't see no reason
because he's not a citizen.
But
you can't compare a citizen to a non-citizen.
And can an Israeli vote from there? Will you let all
That's a different story.
I agree with you.
That's a different story.
But
that's a different debate.
Do you really want an answer?
Yes,
you really want an answer? Let me answer you. You're saying something.
But you're saying
I understood what you're saying. But do you want an answer? Do you want an answer or just to interrupt?
Let him answer.
I understood what you're saying.
Because we don't have 5 minutes left. I want to move on to the next topic.
I'm just saying
quickly.
The reason why Israelis as well cannot vote when they are still in America is we tried by with all our forces to create an Israeli identity instead of a Jewish identity, and therefore it has to be located only on Israeli territory.
What's wrong with an Israeli identity if you can stay in
understand the concept of government with the consent of the governed.
You
cannot have people voting who do not live in the state.
I have to move on, sir. And so our next topic about democracy, Judaism and the democratic state. And actually, I want to start. We don't have time. I'm skipping questions here because it's so. But I want to move to your stance on gay parenting. And here's something that you also said in an op-ed recently that you wrote about gay parenting. The question here is the welfare of the child. Gay parenting. Parenting. The question here is the welfare of the child, and you do not have to be a genius to understand that a child needs both a father and a mother. You recently said that you're not a homophobe, even though you wrote once an article, an op-ed that was titled that, but you're not. But this statement is classic homophobia.
That's nonsense. First of all, I have at least lesbian on my list, and
some of my best friends.
Not some of my major activists in my party are openly homosexual.
What are you basing it on?
So it's nonsense.
That parents need to be a mother and a father. What are you basing it on? There are studies, scientific studies that show that children of same-sex couples are not at less of a disadvantage. What are you basing it on?
Look, science studies can
it's the Feiglin factory.
Thank you. Science studies will also show that the world is flat. If that's what you are looking for.
Answer, sir.
The science looking to put circles around the target. Come on. You know what?
Scientific studies done over decades.
I'm turning to the camera, whoever watches us, and asking the simple person who watching us right now, no matter where, do you think that a child needs both a father and a mother? Is it better for the child than not having a father and a mother? Answer yourself, and that's it.
Do you think you're going to get a lot of secular votes with those kinds of views?
I'm getting already.
Really?
Yes.
Well, you haven't tested that yet.
Oh, yes, I did.
How did you test it? There was no election.
Not just in polls, but also people who participate in my party. Most of them are secular. Most of them, by the way, come here from Tel Aviv.
This week we commemorated the Rabin's assassination 22 years ago. What do you make of his legacy this year?
The Oslo process.
Which was, for you? What does it mean? What does Rabin mean to you? By association.
Rabin's legacy, and I don't think no one will deny that, is the Oslo process. Looking backwards, 22 years backwards, what this process brought on Israel, where it's only bloodshed and terrible fall in our strategic standing in the world. I think today Israel, in the strongest, in the biggest universities, well-known MIT, Sorbonne, Princeton, and others, become the enemy of humanity. Some saying that we are the new Nazis. This is all direction that process brought on us.
We have a minute left. Any response to that?
I don't think that that's the legacy of the Oslo process, although I think we can't deny that the Oslo process has failed. The agenda that you're suggesting as a solution, that we just annex the whole territory now, does not answer, I think, what has been the concern all along this conversation.
Daniel,
what are we going to do with the binational state here?
15 seconds for Daniel.
Well, since Yitzhak Rabin is in a sense my ultimate Zionist, it's a bit difficult for me to identify with what our friend Mr. Feiglin says.
That is all the time we have.
I want to thank our
panelists.
Hard to deal with.
I want to thank our panelists, Gadi Taub and Daniel Sheck, and a very warm thank you to our guest, Moshe Feiglin. Thank you very much, sir. Stay